Alright, good evening. What is up, Pokey people? This is your boy, Nick, AJ, aka Magikarp, from the Splash Bros, here to bring you another breakdown of one of my favorite decks. This deck here is not a conventional meta deck. It does create a little bit of drama for other players, which I find quite interesting and amusing, and as well as that, it's something that you won't see very often in standard format. I'm not going to give away the surprise just yet. See if you can guess what it is. It is a fairy Pokemon. It does involve lots of energy, and if you hadn't guessed it already, you may have by now. It's our friend Whimsicott. Whimsicott is a very versatile card. It has Fluffy Cotton ability, which means if any damage is done to that card, you flip a coin. If that coin lands on heads, then you ignore the damage done to Whimsicott. It's important to note that it doesn't block out effects of attacks, and as well as that, if your opponent's running a Pokemon stadium called Power Plant, they are going to be able to negate the effects of that ability. However, with the use of Chaotic Swell, you're going to be able to navigate around that, hopefully. Right, we've looked at Whimsicott. Nice wee card here, really cool artwork. Alongside the Fluffy Cotton ability, which is very handy, it has an energy blow attack. So for one fairy type energy, the attack does 30 more damage times the amount of energy attached to this Pokemon. So every sequential energy, 30 more damage. GX attack is Toy Box. It allows you to search your deck for up to 5 cards and put them into your hand and then reshuffle your deck. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. I'm going to put Whimsicott down over here by Mewtwo and Pikachu. And I'm going to grab another card out of this deck, which is a staple card. It's really the energy engine for this deck, and it powers it up really nicely. These two guys here in this deck are best buddies. Porygon Z with Crazy Code allows you as often as you like during your turn to reach into your hand and attach a special energy to one of your Pokemon. And yep, you've probably guessed it by now. Those special energy are going to be what's powering our energy blow attack. Think about that. Triple acceleration energy, because Whimsicott is a evolved Pokemon. That's going to be 90 extra damage for that turn for each one of those that you have. If you happen to have 2 in your hand, 180 damage. And let's say you already have 4 special energy on Whimsicott. You're going to be getting into the realms of knocking out Vmaxes with one hit. It is an impressive card, and for something that looks like a sheep with ears made out of a plant, it is going to cause a lot of grief for your opponents. Tell me what you think in chat. Do you like the look of Whimsicott? Whimsicott is one of my favorite Pokemon, but I have to say, out of the two here, Porygon and its evolutions are some of my favorite Pokemon. I like the way that they look. I think that they're very jovial Pokemon. They look like they're having lots of fun in all the artwork that's drawn. And if you read the description of any of the Pokemon down here on the card, you'll realize that the reason that his arms are flapping around as they are is actually because whoever programmed him or her did not do it correctly, which makes it even a little bit more funny. So alongside those cards, which are keys to this deck, I think it's really important that we highlight a couple of other cards. We're not running Porygon Type 2 in this deck. I've chosen not to run it because running 4 rare candies is going to mean, alongside Great Balls and Evolution Incense, that Porygon, getting the Porygon Z, should not be too much of an issue. You've also got the Capture Energy to rely on to get the Porygon onto the bench early in the game, so you can easily evolve in the following turns. I've chosen this Cottonee here, Psychic type. Although you can't attack with it unless you've got one of the Aurora Energies that we run in this deck, I've found that this card here is sufficient to get Whimsicott evolved. I haven't had any issues with it myself. If we have a look at what we've got in terms of draw support, we run one Dedenne in this deck. This Dedenne is from the Trainer's Toolkit, and the artwork again is quite cartoonish and cute, which is quite nice. With the DD change, it allows you to sacrifice your hand into the graveyard or the discard pile, as some people refer to it as, and draw 6 more cards, allowing you to dig through your deck and have a better look at other cards that you might need. Very, very useful, a staple card in most decks and format. The other card that you might not expect to see in this deck, but that provides a lot of early draw support if you can get it out, is our Zacian V. Really powerful card, used in decks such as Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia for its Brave Blade. We're not necessarily using it for this in the Whimsicott deck. We're using it for Intrepid Sword to look at more cards quickly through the deck. Going turn 1 with this deck is optimal, gives you a chance to evolve earlier. If you get Zacian out, you can also Intrepid Sword, which makes it really, really beneficial. We are running 4 Aurora Energies in this deck, so if it came down to it and you weren't able to get quite enough onto the Whimsicott, you can actually Porygon on Aurora Energy onto the Zacian here and perform the Brave Blade attack. The important thing to be mindful of, though, is even though you're using the ability of Porygon Z to perform the attachment of energy, it is a requirement of that energy, even attaching it with this ability, to discard a card from your hand. So bear that in mind if you choose to play this deck. Another staple like Dedenne that you're going to see in a number of decks is Crobat. Crobat is an awesome card for looking and digging through your deck. You don't have to get rid of any Pokemon or trainers that you have in your hand. So if there's something in there, a Bosses, a Great Catcher, if you've got your Porygon Z with the rare candy and you're just trying to find that Porygon, use your Crobat, take advantage of it, and that's why it's in here. We're running a couple of those. Something that I've chosen to put in this deck, and not all builds take advantage of, these 2 cards right here, and I'll explain why I've put them in. I only run 1 of each. The Fairy Charm ability here stops any GX and EX Pokemon that have abilities. Any fire decks at the moment, such as Heatran with an ability on it, it's going to prevent all damage done to Whimsicott with this ability. Not only that, but remember, the Fluffy Cotton ability of Whimsicott makes it a 50% chance even without the tool card. The Fairy Charm Lightning here prevents all damage done to any Fairy type Pokemon that this is attached to by attacks of any Lightning, GX and EX Pokemon. Take a guess if you can think what that might be. I'm going to give you a hint. One of the best decks of last format, one of the decks that people are liking to use in a Mewtwo lightning box at the moment. We're talking about Raichu, we're talking about Pikarom, Pikachu and Zekrom. It's going to slow those decks down, even if they tool scrapper it away and it gives us a couple of turns. These are valuable cards to have in this deck. We're running 2 Great Balls. Great Balls give us search power not only for basic types but also for our evolution Pokemon, and we're also running 2 Evolution Incense. This is going to give us some digging power without having to sacrifice anything to try and get out our Porygon Zs and our Whimsicott GXs. As mentioned before, I won't talk about this for too long because I have already spoken to it. We're running 4 rare candies. 4 rare candies because we're not running a Porygon Type 2. Another staple of every deck and format at the moment is your Quick Balls. We're running 4 of those, the maximum amount that you can run in a deck, and the reason that we're running those is to give us that digging power for basic type Pokemon. Get one of these in your first hand going first with this deck. You can get your Zacian out. You can Intrepid Sword, have a look through more cards, potentially get your Porygon Z out the next turn and your Whimsicott, and this deck will truly be humming. Running 2 Boss's Orders. Some people run 3, some people I've seen even run up to 4. I prefer to run 2 and a Eldegoss, because that's going to give us the ability to grab one of those Boss's Orders back at our leisure and use them. As opposed to some other decks where you're running a 3-3 channel or a 3-4 channel, I've decided to go for 3 Professors and 2 Marnies. We have a lot of digging power already in this deck with our Zacian, so I don't think that we need to worry too much about that. I've put these in here as a backup, as a safety. The Marnie is going to allow us to shuffle cards that we need back into our deck to the bottom of the deck and grab other cards we might need more readily off the top. The Professors is going to help us to get rid of cards that we either don't need or a very small hand to refresh that hand for that turn and the following turns. Something really pertinent with this deck is, as I mentioned at the start, you're going possibly to run into power plants, and those power plants really are going to shut down Whimsicott and its ability. Whimsicott's not a high HP Pokemon. It does rely on that fluffy cotton to get by. So Chaotic Swells are going to be key to get rid of your power plants of your opponents. And it's also going to mean, if you can get it out early, that if they want to play their power plants, if they have 2 or 3, that they're going to have to sacrifice one from their hand just to get another one on in the following turns. So I've chosen to run 2 of those. It is quite important in my eyes. I've also decided to run 1 Wondrous Labyrinth. Something that I like to do with this deck, assuming that I get this card out early, is put this out in the active stadium position and prevent the opponent from getting their attack started quite as quickly. It's quite handy because it's not affecting any of our fairy type Pokemon. Bear in mind though, if you do have this out and you choose to equip to Zacian, or your Whimsicotts get knocked or are unable to be put out in the active or on the bench, and you have to equip to Porygon using its ability, it is going to mean that you have to have an extra energy on to do those attacks. But with Porygon's ability, it's normally not an issue. On to almost a third of the deck, we're running lots and lots of energy to give you that hitting power with Whimsicott. I've chosen to run 3 Fairy Energy because you do have a requirement here of 1 Fairy Energy to get that attack started. Put whatever else you want on, Capture Energy, Horror Energy, Recycle Energy, it doesn't matter, but you have to have that Fairy type. So the only way you're going to get that on is either by having Fairy type energy in the deck, of which some decks choose to run 2. I prefer being safe with 3 and a little more consistent. And you're also going to find that the other base that's covered for that is through your Aurora Energy. And the Aurora Energy, as I mentioned before, does require you to discard a card, but it's going to provide any type of energy that you need, including that fairy type energy right here. The other types of energy that I choose to run in this deck are Recycle Energy. Recycle Energy, a full 4 set of all energy types that are special in this deck. Recycle Energy because if your Whimsicott does get knocked, it goes back into your hand. The way that I like to play this, if at all possible, is stacking the Whimsicott in the active with the Recycle Energy and using triple acceleration energies, which there's 4 of in this deck, sparingly to knock Pokemon. And then when the Whimsicott does eventually get taken out, which it will, your Recycle Energy will return to your hand, and by that point, hopefully, you will either have another Whimsicott ready, or you'll have some Fairy Energy or an Aurora in your hand to get another one humming. running 4 capture energy, and the 4 capture energy here are going to be really useful early game to get out Pokemon such as Porygon, to get out another Cottonee, so you can start evolving these guys here and really taking advantage of this deck. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Let me know if you like Whimsicott, do you like Porygon? Try this deck out, build it online. Write down in the comments what it was that you liked about it, and if you don't like it, tell me. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our Twitch and our Instagram for regular updates, pack breaks, giveaways, and all sorts of awesome content. Thanks for tuning in, team.